Okay, so the other guys would be joining us during this webinar. So we're gonna start because we have like 5 guys already here. So okay, so today we're gonna talk about Apple-1 story and how it works, about the first computer of Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, and the first days of Apple Inc. That became very successful right now. So our agenda is to cover the story, the first days, and then we're gonna talk about architecture of Apple-1 and how it works. And also we're gonna talk a little bit about our SmartyKit version and how it works, because many of you guys have it already and you assemble it. And so it would be interesting for you to know how this 21st century revision of 1976 original Apple-1. And also we would have some Q&A sessions, so you can ask some questions and I would love to answer them. Also, anytime you can ask some questions in our Discord channel, join it, and then you can ask whatever you want. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. So it was like it was 70s, and it was young guys like Woz and Jobs. They were in their 20s, and they worked in HP and in Atari. Woz was kind of an engineer. Jobs was dreaming about building something sustainable, some business, and in that time, computers were kind of something that were just becoming mainstream, and many people wanted to have them, but they were too expensive and they were not really personal. And so they decided to make something that could be used at home. And Woz was the guy who was the engineer who designed it at first in his own head, because that time it was very hard to find components and like chips, like microprocessors, because it was just like few years after the first microprocessor, Intel 4004 was presented. And so in that time, it was just really hard to find all this stuff to build real prototype. So Woz at first, he designed everything in his head with then he drew the schematics using paper and pen. And after years of doing this and creating some kind of designs of computers, he can build something that became Apple-1. But for sure, they had like 9 to 5 jobs, and it wasn't really clear. Could it become popular and could it be a real business? And in this time, it was the guy called Paul Terrell who was a kind of a godfather of Apple, because when Jobs and Woz wanted to sell do-it-yourself kits to build Apple-1, he said, "No, guys, you can just." He had a shop, bike shop in California, and he said, "Guys, I gonna be your first B2B client. I gonna buy 50 of your computers, but assembled ones for $500 each, and so I'm gonna sell them in retail." Before this, Jobs were thinking about selling these kits for something like less than $100. So $500 for assembled computers sound really great. And he said, "Wow, we can just sit in my garage, in my family's garage, and bring our friends there and start assembling this, because it's going to be very good, interesting business." And so with this 25Ks on hand, they were ready to assemble it and to thinking about it as a real business, because people were like this Paul Terrell, he was ready to buy it, and they say, "Whoa, that's cool, we have a client." And so this is how it all started. And this garage could be found in Silicon Valley. We plan also to make some pictures with SmartyKit there, because we connected to this place to this revision of Apple-1. But yeah, it started in a garage like many Silicon Valley companies, and they quitted to their 9-to-5 jobs, thing that many people right now dream of, and it's very also popular how to quit your 9-to-5 job. And these guys did it, and then they became really successful with building Apple and growing it up to like few trillion dollars company. Okay, let's take a look at quick facts and what it is Apple-1. On the right hand, you can see how it looks. And it was presented in April 1976, and it was in sale for about a year. It used 6502 CPU, Central Processing Unit. Clock rate was about 1 megahertz. And the very specific feature of Apple-1 was that it has text mode only. So display was only a terminal, a typewriter, something like this. So it's teletype. So it just can print one char at a time, char by char, row by row, and then in the end you just see some text on the screen. That's why you don't really see a lot of fun games for Apple-1, like the ones we have, for example, for Nintendo NES that uses the same 6502 CPU. So there is no any there is no any graphic mode, and there is no any kind of colors available on the screen. So everything you see is just one color, and every pixel on the screen is part of the char, and it could be just like on or off, and that's it. Yeah, so that was really specific for Apple-1. Here you can see the advertisement from that time, and kind of a selling points of Apple-1 in Apple Ad. And let's take a look on what were the selling points of and why people need to buy Apple-1 and not some other computer. Yeah, and the price was cool. It's like 66666, and you remember it was sold by Apple to Paul Terrell for $500, and then he retailed it at 666. There was because Woz liked these figures. Yeah, so you can calculate margin. It's like $166. Okay, so the first selling point is you don't need an expensive teletype. So Apple-1 had on the board also all the circuitry that was in charge of creating a video signal and saving all these charts and screen memory. So all you need is just some monitor that can or TV set with a radio frequency converter that would just show some current screen. And so it was really good. So it's like you have a TV as a family, for example, you can bring this Apple-1, connect it to a TV, and that's it. You don't need to buy anything extra. And because teletype, it would cost you more. No more switches, no more lights. They refer to the other computers like Altair, for example, that had a lot of different sorts of switches and LEDs as a kind of a mean to input and output information. And so here you can see at least something that you can read like a normal human. And for sure, it was a big leap for all this computing industry. And for sure, everybody would like this much more than some kind of LEDs. They say that it could have even 8 kilobytes of RAM in 16 chips. Chips are more efficient regarding power consumption. So it was good. So they didn't want to make you buy some expensive power supply. So it was just much more interesting engineering decision to make Apple-1 like this. But they supply it in like basic configuration with the 4 kilos of RAM. And as we can remember, the CPU 6502 has 16 bits for address bus, so it can address up to 64 Ks. But in basic version, you can just have only 4. Yeah, and the little cassette board that really works. Why they say about this, and they highlight it, because this was the only mean to load something and save something from this computer, because it wasn't any kind of hard drive or flash drive that time. And so everything you can do, if you want to load some game or some basic program or something like this, any kind of program, you would need to connect your cassette recorder and then have this program on a cassette and then press play, and this card should read this and convert it to and load it to my computer memory, and then you can run it. And for sure it should be reliable, because you're going to use it very, very often, because if you also did something, you modify this memory, wrote your own program, you wanted to save it, you need this cassette recorder in order to do this. And they say it's also very high speed, so typical program would load, for example, for 20 seconds. That is pretty fast. Okay, and also software Apple Basic was included, and it's really cool because they say that all the other updates or some other softwares also would be just like available for free, and it's for sure not really equivalent to the business model of Apple Inc. right now, because they try to upsell everything in App Store, so they charge companies and users for this. And that time they say, okay, Apple Basic is just part of the cassette board. Also, you can do it right from the beginning of using of your computer. And for sure, it was also a good selling point, because they say, okay, you can. It's not just a hardware; it's also kind of a mini ecosystem with the software that would be available for you. And also, this Apple Basic, it's available. It's also right now. You can also upload it to, for example, to your SmartyKit, because this is technically available. So I think reading this in 1976, I say, okay, where I need to go to buy my Apple-1, because it sounded really good that time. Here we can see the beautiful board of Apple-1 redrawn by Robert Dowell from National Museum of Computing History at Bletchley in the United Kingdom, the place where Alan Turing worked during World War II, decoding German Enigma, and that was covered in this Beautiful Mind movie. So yeah, it is a kind of a engineering piece of art made by Woz, because you can see very distinctive rows here, A, B, C, D. On the left, you can see these letters, and all chips are aligned. And what we should take a look at. So 6502 CPU, it's a white rectangle on the A row. And so you can see it very clear. On the left, it is parallel input-output chip that helps CPU to communicate with the terminal and with keyboard. And on the left, you can see two small chips. It's Steve Wozniak's operating system of 256 bytes, loaded into these two ROM chips. So either is 4 bits. So together they make like the lower nibble and higher nibble of every byte, and together the total capacity is total memory available is 256 bytes for these two prompts, and it's only firmware that this Apple-1 had. So if you added this cassette card, extension card, There you can see also small PROMs with the firmware that organized loading and saving from a cassette recorder. So also you can see big capacitors on the top right part of the board, because this computer, it used also not just 5 volts for power supply, but also 12 volts. And so it needed big capacitors in order to stabilize this power supply. I love this picture. I love this because it's really cool. And here you can see the same board, but recreated by Apple itself in their advertisement. So it's pretty much the same, and also they explain what it is on this board. So they highlight microprocessor, keyboard interface. They also show where's all this circuitry regarding this video terminal is located, and also they show that they have expansion connector and this 8 kilobytes of RAM with this 16 chips, 8 and 8 in 2 rows. So here you can see how it looked that time. Also in this Apple-1 operation manual that is available now on Discord, you can download it. You can see the schematics of Apple-1, and what I like here is this guys who are well known right now. On that time, it was like design engineer Steve Wozniak and project engineer Steve Jobs. It also Ronald Wayne, who was the guy, the third one, who was a kind of guy in his 40s who joined Apple as a kind of a more experienced guy, and who had 10% in Apple, and then he sold it like in less than 1 year. And many people refer to this as a kind of the worst investment decision in history, because now this 10% costs like, I don't know, for like 100 or something billion USD. But for sure, for that time, it was too risky for him to participate in this venture with almost students like Jobs and Wozniak, and for him it was a big risk. So he decided to quit. But anyway, he was in charge of creating this documentation for Apple-1. And so it is here, his surname like drawn by him. And you can see it's like, yeah, it's March of 1976. And so we can go next. So about its architecture? Okay, it's very simple and it's straightforward, like pretty much like we have right now, with one exception with this on text-only mode. So anyway, it's like a CPU, the key component of any computing system here. It does all the work. It loads instructions and then executes them. So we have memory, and we have memory that stores data to process, and instructions that describe what exactly should be done with this data. So together it makes programs, some set of instructions and data. And also we need some input-output to communicate with the user, because everything in a computer is created in order to get some instructions, get some guidance from a human, and then to show him something, because otherwise it could calculate anything in memory, but we cannot see what's inside the chip. So we need some sort of output. Before this, like it was computers with LEDs showing something, but in this case, our main mean of output is display, and it can get chars. And so CPUs, it's mainly trying to show something on screen, just sending char by char, and then display shows it and scrolls it and do all this work. Keyboard is also very simple and it has a very simple interface. It sends one char at a time. It sends one char, and then it waits while processor would get this char, and it checks the flag. And after this, if flag is set to I'm ready to get the new char, so it sends the new char, and so CPU can read it. And so it's pretty much the same, but in all modern computers. But our display and output system is more complicated. But in general, CPU sends some command to show something on display, or filling up some video memory in order to turn some pixels on and turn some pixels off. Yeah, and also regarding this software that was built in, like firmware, on these two small ROM chips, it was Steve Wozniak's operating system. Its full listing you can find it in Apple-1 operating manual in this big PDF, and it was really simple, and it can do three main types of commands. It can examine some memory cell or memory block. So it's called examine mode. It can store, so it can write to memory, a specific memory location, memory cell, or some memory block. And the key feature that every computer needs to run some program. It is very simple. So you need to type the address in memory, and then this command just goes there and starts execute from this place. So this operating system of Apple-1 didn't know anything about files or some kind of programs as a named memory areas. It just can write anywhere, read anywhere in memory, and jump anywhere in the memory to start executing it. And so many programs, they didn't even have some exit functions. So they were just doing it in an infinite loops. And the only way you can stop it is just to press hardware reset on a computer in order to reload this was operating system again from the very beginning, from the starting point. Yeah, and what about SmartyKit version of this? So yeah, we have like this DIY version where you assemble this step by step. Yeah, here's my daughter. She assembles this SmartyKit. She likes all this electronics, and she uses iPad as an online instructions guidance. And now soon we also plan to optimize our iPad version in order to be better and more easy to use. Also, you can see here this Apple-1 original Apple-1 instructions were created by Armin from Germany. He remade everything from scratch, and now they're perfectly printed on the very good paper, and it's just very nice to open up and to use and to look at. And so we plan to also to cooperate with Armin for the special price for these instructions, because many people who assemble our kit like these high quality instructions that look like original ones, like printed now. Yeah, so we can see like from different sorts, from different places, and also we can connect PS2 keyboard, and it's very cool. Also, we have a Unibody Workshop edition, and you can see here it's like it's ASCII art. We have a guy from France who is an ASCII artist who created this SmartyKit logo. And also yesterday we updated our drivers, so now it has also the Steve Jobs garage. So you can update your own SmartyKit drivers in order to have this as a splash screen. Also, you can customize name in this string made with love by. You can add your own name, and so you can personalize either Workshop edition, either your DIY version. Yeah, and so our architecture is similar to what we have in original Apple-1. And so it's also in and out, it's also CPU, it also has a memory module, and also display and keyboard. Keyboard could be this custom-made 40 case or connected PS2 version. And here you can see memory map. In original Apple-1, memory map was very simple because you have very small RAM and only this was monitor at FF00. But we also, in our version, we added more memory, like 32 kilos of RAM, and the other part is RAM. And also D000 segment is used by Apple-1 for ports, so communicating with the display and keyboard. So it's reserved memory segment just for this. Yeah, and so this is basically it. So would love to see you among our subscribers. You probably already are, but anyway, you can sign up to our list. You can go to our GitHub and run all our software and emulators. We're gonna add new videos to our YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter. And now I would love to hear some questions from you guys, if you have them. So would happy to hear if you would have some questions.
Sergey, thanks for putting on this presentation. Really appreciate the effort, and definitely love the, we actually, my son and I both attended the seminar that you put on during, I think last year with Woz that actually joined, and that was awesome. And again, I really can appreciate it. I mean, I'm definitely a very big fan of retro 8-bit stuff. I've got an Apple II Plus and a 2E and a 2GS, and now I've got an Apple-1 through your kit. So I was one of the first ones to order. So again, thank you. Really, really great stuff.
Thank you.
You know, I really love the hardware side of things. I know I've worked with software quite a bit. Question: do you have any recommendations, like if for somebody that's trying to come up to speed to very maybe light degree? Do you have any recommendations in terms of books or materials that you would recommend as I look into sort of the more the hardware side of things? Again, these kits are really helpful, but you know, I don't have any formalized training. I'm just somebody that's very interested. So do you have any recommendations, or even, you know, YouTube videos? I don't know, anything.
I can say that Ben Eater, he covers a lot regarding the hardware part. He shows up how to, for example, how the 6502 CPU works, how clock generator works, and he has a lot of this stuff. And also what I like, the 8-bit guy, he's also a YouTuber. He covers a lot of retro computing, and very often he covers a lot of things regarding hardware too.
Okay.
So this is from the kind of YouTube stuff. And also there is a very good course called From NAND to Tetris. It is a course that shows how computational system could be built from very simple building blocks like NANDs, the very simple logical operations. They do it kind of in software emulator, but it's this software emulator, it's just a representation of a hardware system. So cool. It's very cool, and they have this course on Coursera. I think it was free, and you can just follow it. Also, they have a book on Amazon. I've already bought it. Yeah, so you can check this out. I can also drop this.
Slack that, or Discord that, or send in the chat.
Yeah, I'll drop this to Discord after the webinar.
That's great. Yeah, appreciate that. And it's exactly spot on. I mean, I'm looking for something just to, of course, something that's online, and something sounds like a software emulator of hardware. That's awesome as well. I think that'd be really great to get something more hands-on. But again, really appreciate the efforts around educating because as we know, I mean, these days, cloud, and that's the space that I'm in terms of software, it's very ethereal. So in other words, it's, my intention was to really get my kids more hands-on. And in a lot of ways, I think it's really critical. It's important for our kids to know that this is not just something out there, theoretical, right? It's something that's hardware, it's real, and want to make sure that folks are really grounded in that going forward. Otherwise they lose, it's tougher, right? It's tougher for them to really grasp what it all means,
And also my recommendation would be for you, if you already have our kit, you can just upload this new version with the Steve Jobs Garage for your kids to video controller, and for sure they would love it, because I love it when you see it like line by line, like it's just showing up. This is really cool. So I'm gonna send you maybe more instructions. We can discuss it or either in Discord or on using just email. Because I can guide you, or if it's needed, I could just we can have like 15 minutes Zoom call. I can explain you how we can update it, and you can have it.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Sergey.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so guys, if there is no any other questions, so if you would have them, you can just ask me an email or using our Discord. And it was a pleasure to tell you this Apple-1 story. Also, you can join the other webinars. Tomorrow, we're going to have this Woz operating system in more details regarding much more software engineering part of it and tricks necessary to know for every software engineer. Also, we had it yesterday, and we have also a weekly webinar on 6502 CPU and how to write simple hello world program on this for this processor. And it's just more general. It's about writing some simple software on bare metal. So you're gonna learn a bit about loops, about pointers, variables, key fundamental things for coding, and you for sure would understand them better. So would love to see you among your listeners. It's also free, so you can check it on our website, and we have 3 links in order to join every of these webinars. So thank you so much. Yeah, and see you on our next webinars. Thank you, guys.